sports.
Pitch hit high in the air into left field, and that ball is gone. George Beck has given Tennessee the lead. Christian Scott, the leap at the fence. He robs a home run.
Sponsored by Fieldhouse Social, the modern sports bar next to campus at University Commons. FieldhouseSocial.com.
Ben Joyce kicks and delivers. Strike three.
Rock Solid Sports, the only show with a home field advantage for UT Athletics. Here's tonight's host, Jackson Williams.
Welcome in, everybody, to Rock Solid Sports. I'm your host, Jackson Williams. I got Jack Foster next to me. I got Bryson Wright and Chris Clark across the glass. And at our sponsor, Fieldhouse Social, 2525 University Commons Way, I got my man, Riley Haltom. Riley, what's going on?
Having a good time down here at Fieldhouse Social. We got some Braves baseball, some hockey, some SEC softball, first round of the SEC tournament for softball. So, it's a good time down here, good vibes. We're loving it, great food. And so, come down here, watch some sports. Trivia's getting started up. Come enjoy the atmosphere down here at Fieldhouse Social.
Definitely. Always a good time down at Fieldhouse Social. And, guys, it's exam season. How are we doing this week?
I hate exam season.
Yeah, it's kind of tough. It's my last one, though, so I'm kind of pumped. But, Bryson, Chris, how you guys doing?
Doing pretty good. Same as Jack. Exam season is tough for sure. Congratulations on your future graduation, though, Jackson. Almost out of here.
Definitely. It's coming up. It's getting here quicker than I'd probably like it to, but I'm excited. But let's get right into it. We got Vol baseball yesterday defeating Bellarmine. Am I saying that right? Bellarmine. 11-5 in a midweek matchup. The Vols desperately needed to come out and play well. 3 home runs hit by Blake Burke, Blade Tidwell, and
Blake Burke, Drew Gilbert, and Trayless hit the homers.
Who did I say?
You said Blade Tidwell.
Blade Tidwell. Okay.
It's okay. It's exam season.
It is exam season. Definitely escaped my mind there, but a nice bounce back for the Vols after a rough weekend in Kentucky. Obviously losing that series 2-1, winning the Sunday game and winning the midweek matchup. It was big. It was big.
Yeah, it's a midweek matchup, so you have to take these wins with a grain of salt. And Bellarmine, I thought, actually played pretty well. They did well against UT's bullpen, but it was nice to see these bats get back going, score 10+ runs, get a nice midweek win. I think it was encouraging to see out of Blake Burke, especially to get a homer and to continue his success at the plate, and for Drew Gilbert, only his 5th homer of the year. So nice to see him leave the yard.
Especially after it feels like none of the bats were really doing anything against Kentucky until that third game. With that game that went to 13 innings and it was only 2-2, you'll never see that with this Tennessee team very often. So it's good to just see them kind of bounce back on Sunday and also during the midweek game.
Yeah, definitely. It was a good matchup. Obviously, you're looking ahead to Georgia, though, because obviously the Bellarmine matchup and the Sunday Kentucky game were 2 games you obviously needed to win. You can't get swept by the last place team in the SEC East. And you have to beat Bellarmine at home. So looking ahead to Georgia, we got our pitching matchups for tomorrow, and it's going to be Chase Dolander taking the game 1 start. First time this season, Chase Burns will not be on the mound for a game 1. What do we think about this? I think Dolander earned a spot in the starting rotation for the weekend after how well he pitched in the game 2 against Kentucky. But what are we thinking here around him replacing Drew Beam?
Well, we don't really know.
Or not Drew Beam, Chase Burns.
Yes, and we don't know if the Saturday starter is to be determined, so we don't know if Burns is going to start Saturday, but I would predict that Beam still keeps that day 3 role, so I don't think Burns is going to start this weekend. I think it's a good decision to have Doe back on the starting, back in the starting rotation. I thought he would take over for Blade Tidwell, considering Tidwell has, been pretty subpar the last 2 outings, but I think Dolander has definitely earned it, and you can rest either Burns or Beam this week as the season ramps up, heading into Hoover, heading into the regional, super regional, potentially Omaha. So to keep these guys fresh is really big.
Yeah, I think the reason why they went with not taking Tidwell out is just because of how good he was last season. And you know that he is still coming off of an injury and he's still trying to get back. So I don't think it's time to take him out of the start just because he kind of struggled the last couple of weeks, because I think he's going to keep getting better. And he has, like we always say, he has first-round talent for the MLB draft. So it's that kind of stuff that is the reason why they probably kept him out there as a starter.
Yeah, you make a good point. And thinking about it, the season as a whole, Burns and Beam have pitched significantly more innings than Dollander and Tidwell due to their injuries. So, giving them a break this weekend, I feel like is a good idea.
Yeah, and
One of them anyway.
I think Dollander is ultimately I think he has been the best pitcher on this staff currently.
I think he has the best stuff. Now, you could argue Beam has been the most consistent, maybe not as of late, but just taking the season as a whole, he's been really, really good.
He has. But in terms of, I think, like first round, like MLB level talent, I think Dollander is going to be your guy. And Chase Burns definitely has stuff too, but he struggled as of late. And so it's going to be interesting. I mean, this was the first pitching decision that Tony Vitello has really had to make this season, because you got to think Tidwell goes in when Dollander's hurt. Now they're all healthy. This is the first time you've had them all healthy, and you haven't had like a set rotation, because when Tidwell came back, they were just rolling with their guys, and they kept Tidwell. He was starting midweekers. He was coming in relief, and then Dollander gets hurt. Now everybody's back. It's time to make a decision, and I like this one. I like Dollander on Friday nights or Thursday nights.
Yeah.
Game one. It's weird.
Yeah, it's a weird week just because they play on Thursday. The real question is going to be: do you guys think we're going to see Burns come out of the bullpen either on Thursday or Friday, or do you think they're going to save him for the last game?
If it really, honestly, I think that's how we could learn who's the Saturday starter. Yeah. If one of them comes out of the bullpen on Thursday or Friday,
I think that the optimal thing for Tony Vitello and these Vols is whoever they don't pitch this weekend is to not have them throw at all. Now, if push comes to shove and they got to win a game, then we could see him. But I don't think that would be part of the game plan.
Okay, so more of a rest thing.
Yes, I would think so. I could be totally wrong, but that's how I would see it.
So you think we could kind of see a rotation within the rotation, like this weekend you get off, this weekend
we're
going to pitch 3 guys.
Yeah.
One person's going to get a week off, and we rotate every week.
And there's only 2 more series left. Mm-hmm. So, after that, you're going to need all 4 guys ready to go at any moment.
Especially for the SEC tournament. You're going to need all 4 of them. And I think that's why it's important to keep letting Tidwell start as well, just so that he can be 100% by the time you get to the SEC tournament and then also the regionals.
Yeah, and ultimately, when you get to the postseason, you're going to need a 5-man rotation.
Yeah, and Xander Sechrist stuff and Camden Sewell, they have options.
So I was going to ask, who do you think will be ultimately that 5th starter?
I think it would be Camden Sewell.
That's what I was thinking. I think Sechrist has done really well in the midweeks, but his arm in the bullpen, number one, will be very valuable. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure he's ready for that upper echelon level, because he's pitched midweekers, which you're not playing your best baseball teams. I mean, Bellarmine, Alabama A&M.
You could go down the list. Yes.
I think the best midweek team they played was Tennessee Tech.
Yeah, definitely.
By far and away.
Yes.
So it's hard to gauge where he is. So I think Camden Sewell is the right answer.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot of extended release situations for Sewell, in the past month, and he's done really well pitching 4 more innings, right at 4, especially against Florida is the one I go back to, and Tidwell and Sewell, the only 2 to pitch, and they shut out the Gators. So Sewell has shown he can start. He showed it last season. So, he'd be the 5th guy in my eyes.
Yeah, and it's interesting with this team because, I mean, you just have such an embarrassment of riches that it's hard to pinpoint a guy. I mean, honestly, I could see Ben Joyce getting a start somewhere in the postseason.
Ooh, I don't know.
Tony said he's not afraid. He said he'd like to do it. I mean,
you threw him 4 or 5 innings against, I want to say, was it Auburn? Auburn, he threw 5 innings. So 4 or 5 innings of relief. But, I mean, you could definitely throw him out there in a starting situation.
I think you could, but I still think that he's valuable out of the bullpen, though.
I mean,
I think that's why he wouldn't start, is I think you still would rather have him later in the game.
No, yeah, I don't think, the decision to start Joyce would not be a last resort, but it would be on down the list of your options.
It's going to be interesting to see how they manage this. And, were you ever concerned with the bats for this lineup? Because, I mean, versus Kentucky until Saturday, they were virtually not there. I mean, 2 runs in the first 2 games. really nothing going. A lot of swinging at curveballs in the dirt, which when this team is lost, that's what they've done a lot of. They've swung at curveballs in the dirt. Were you ever really concerned with this lineup?
I mean, not far from the panic button, especially after what they showed on Game 2 Saturday, which was after the finish of, or Game 3 Saturday, which was after the finish of Game 2. But I wasn't like hitting the panic button or anything. It kind of threw me aback how much they struggled because it's Kentucky. They don't have their top two arms, and it's like, why are you struggling so much against one of the worst SEC baseball teams? But you got to think about it. They're on the road. The weather was really, really, really terrible for that game, for Game 1, and really, obviously Game 2 because it got delayed. So nothing was really going in their favor, and I just think it's baseball. You have one of those weekends.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Honestly, the biggest concern for this team is peaking too early. I'm not sure that they've done that, but
if they lose a series to Georgia, you could argue they did.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like this team is not where it was, and that's not a good thing heading into the postseason. Obviously, that was a big worry. You come out and you have the strongest weekend you can have in the SEC. Two of them was sweeping Ole Miss and sweeping Vandy. Mm-hmm. So obviously, it's a concern to peak a little early, but I don't know. It's tough to gauge this team going into the postseason because they're the best team far and away in the country. But also they haven't exactly played like it.
No, not as of recently. But I think had this happened like back in mid-March or something, I think we can have this talk about has this team peaked pretty early. It way too early even. I think right now they've been able to be consistently competitive. I haven't seen you've seen these drop-offs. The series against Kentucky was one that you just as Jack just kind of alluded to, you just kind of have to write off because these things will happen. I think, honestly, when we had this talk, I believe it was last week or the week before, about this time of the year right now for Tennessee with the SEC tournament coming up, and just getting ready and prepared for that, is that you're probably going to have – there's a lot of things going through these players' minds right now, and whether they want to, admit it or not, they know that this, the season's coming to an end and the real season is going to begin here shortly. So I think – I'm not surprised to see the series against Kentucky end up how it did. I'm glad, obviously, we salvaged the last game. But in terms of these Vols, I'm not worried about them because I think they're going to get their stuff together. And as they move forward, they're just they're going to put their heads down and go to work. I have no doubt about that.
I think it's going to be really interesting in the SEC tournament. I want to see a Tennessee-Arkansas championship.
Desperately.
That's the only team Tennessee has not played in the SEC that, like, okay, I want to test Tennessee how good they really are. You have to play Arkansas, and I think we're going to see it in the championship.
I think we could see it in the championship. And then also, of course, both of the teams are much different than they were last year. But the series last year, there were a lot of big moments and really cool moments in that series last season. And I do think that, there's some of the same players. So I think that there might be still a little bit of a rivalry between the two teams, even though they haven't played since last year. And they've been basically the two best teams in the SEC for most of the season. So I think that's what everybody really wants to see.
Yeah, I obviously they don't have Kevin Kopps anymore.
We don't have Fergie who hit the walk-off.
Yeah, the big names may not be a few of the big names may not be there. Obviously, Tennessee keeps Jordan Beck. Tennessee keeps Evan Russell.
Tennessee still has plenty of guys to hit a walk-off homer.
Yeah, Tennessee still has guys that can do that and have done that, but I really want to see them against Arkansas before I can really judge what I can say this team is going to do in
we didn't get it
the
in
real
basketball.
Postseason.
We didn't get it in basketball. Maybe we can get it in baseball. That would be a great series. A great matchup to see there.
Definitely looking forward to it. And let's get into a little bit of basketball. Kennedy Chandler officially invited to the NBA Combine, and what are we ultimately thinking? I know, Jack, you wrote an article about this week. What are we thinking about Kennedy Chandler in the draft?
He has he's going to be a first rounder. He's going in the first round in multiple mocks. I don't think he'll be a lottery pick, but there's multiple teams that have been taking him in mocks, from the Mavericks to the Timberwolves to even the Grizzlies. Not recently, but I saw one a while back that took Kennedy, and the Nets as well. So there's a lot of teams that have been in these mocks to take KC. I'm interested to see what he does in the Combine. I think it's important to note he's the only volunteer to be invited to the Combine, as JJJ and Santi did not get invited. So that's something we could talk about. But yeah, Casey's going to keep rolling. I have faith that he'll be a first rounder.
I think it was a given that he was going to be invited to the combine for sure. I don't think that really was in question.
No.
And with JJJ and Santi, I'm not surprised that they didn't get invited, just because I feel like they try to keep it to mostly first round guys to go to the combine. And I think even if those guys got drafted, it probably would have been the second round, which I still think that those guys are probably going to end up back at Tennessee next year.
Yeah.
But the main thing is Kennedy Chandler, if he has a good showing at the combine, he could increase his draft stock a little bit, maybe going from in the 20s to maybe not all the way into the lottery, but maybe get into the teens. And it's still early. The draft is still over a month or month and a half away, I'm pretty sure. So he has time. He is going to be able to work out with a bunch of different teams and work out against other people from his class and compare himself to all the people from his class. And it's a little bit different than the college basketball season, just because there might only be one or two NBA caliber guys on every team, but they're going to be playing, and it's all going to be guys that are going against each other to get the draft picks or draft spots. So I think it's going to be really exciting to see what he does in the combine.
I'm excited to see Kennedy myself, because I think I'm right there with you. I think he's probably low 20s. Maybe he can push himself up into that kind of upper teens, middle teens right there. There's certainly some teams that we're going to see in those in that 10 to 20 spot right there that could certainly use a young point guard with a lot of potential. And I think Kennedy himself, this is a chance for him to continue to grow, right? He's still so young of a kid. He has so much still to learn. So I think for him to be able to work out these different teams, to establish these sort of relationships already, that's going to be the biggest thing for him as he goes into the NBA draft. So very excited, very curious to see where exactly Mr. Chandler might end up landing.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, because obviously the biggest knock on Kennedy right now is his length. And, for the NBA, I mean, he's 6 foot, just right around 6 foot, 6'1".
Mm-hmm.
And, that's his big knock right now. But we heard it every time Tennessee played basketball. This kid is long. He's got a crazy wingspan.
6'7".
I think, these measurements of the combine will help a little bit. And if he shows out in those scrimmages, I think you could definitely see Kennedy get into that right out of the lottery. He won't be a lottery pick, but right out of the lottery.
I don't know if he's going to reach his potential, so do not quote me on this. But right now, he gives me sort of Trae Young vibes, where I can see that he was a phenomenal college basketball star, did great things in college. And I think he's going to be a little bit more of a sleeper pick than Trae was. Obviously, Trae been fantastic with the Hawks. I think Kennedy has that potential. Not saying that's what he's going to be, but I think I can see a lot of similarities there, especially given the height challenge.
I see what you're saying. The guy that I would kind of compare him to is Jalen Brunson. I think that he compares to Jalen Brunson, a little bit undersized, but can get to the rim really well, and also has a bit of a jumper, even though that's not the thing that you're the most scared of with Jalen Brunson either. But I think that Trae Young and Jalen Brunson, they play very differently, but because of the size that they are compared to Kennedy Chandler, I think that those are both pretty good comparisons.
And you can't forget how great of a defender Kennedy became at Tennessee.
Ultimately, Rick Barnes coming to Tennessee was the best decision Kennedy could have made, because improving his defense was what he really needed to do to push himself into where he's going to get drafted highly after his freshman year. And Rick Barnes was able to coach him up on defense. And I think Kennedy's going to have probably the best NBA career of any Tennessee player not named Grant Williams, because I think Grant could be a starter for the Celtics next season.
I feel like he's earned it.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit more about NBA in the next segment. Grant Williams been killing it, but I think Kennedy Chandler ultimately will be one of the best Tennessee players in the NBA, other than like Tobias Harris, who's obviously been an all-star, been a really good player. But outside of that, Tennessee hasn't really had a ton of talent in the NBA as of late. So I think...
So you're talking like 5 years down the road. We'll look back at all this.
We'll be looking as Kennedy as one of the top Tennessee players to be drafted.
Gotcha.
Definitely going to be interesting. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk NBA. Memphis Grizzlies facing elimination tonight in Memphis. We'll be right back on Rock Solid Sports.
Support for WUTK comes from Fieldhouse Social, the modern sports bar next to campus at University Commons. Fieldhouse Social serves American craft fare such as burgers, wings, and more with high tops around the bar, a separate dining area, and a center lounge with leather chairs and couches in front of their 23-foot LED TV wall for Tennessee and pro sports. Fieldhouse Social is an outdoor patio with trivia twice a week and sponsors Wednesday's Rock Solid Sports. FieldhouseSocial.com.
WUTK stays on air thanks to support from South Press Coffee, the locally owned coffee and tea house at 3715 Chapman Highway, close to campus. South Press is a relaxing, safe community space with locally sourced coffee, honey, CBD, and baked goods. WUTK's Out Loud Knox will be broadcasting live at South Press on Thursday, May 12th from 6 to 8 p.m. with live performances, pride merch, and giveaways. 3715 Chapman Highway, just 1 mile south of the Henley Street Bridge. It's South Press Coffee.
Hey, everybody, this is ESPN and SEC Network's Ryan McGee. When I'm on Rocky Top, I'm listening to Rock Solid Sports on 90.3 The Rock, the only show with the home field advantage for Tennessee sports.
The Rock thanks the Hill Bar and Grill for their support. The Hill on Forest Avenue is open 7 days a week at 11 a.m. until late night for dining indoors or on the expanded patio. The Hill has a variety of appetizers and a full menu of wings, burgers, tacos, and more. The Hill is our Thursday Munchie Madness sponsor and home of Friday's Rock Solid Sports. On Instagram at The Hill Knox. Menu at thehillknox.com.
Volunteer Radio remains on the air thanks to support from Tennessee Smokies Baseball, the AA Southern League affiliate of the Chicago Cubs, whose 2022 regular season schedule features 6-game homestands Tuesdays through Sundays at nearby Smokies Stadium in Kodak against the Chattanooga Lookouts, Mississippi Braves, Birmingham Barons, and more. WUTK's Rock Solid Sports will cover Smokies Baseball all season long. SmokiesBaseball.com, and a link is at WUTKRadio.com.
Volunteer Radio stays on air thanks to Cool Beans, the 21-up college sports bar next to campus on Lake Avenue, a block off the strip. Cool Beans has 25 rotating beer taps and bottles. HD TVs everywhere, along with darts, pool, and arcade games. Open every day at 11 a.m. till late night. Burgers, wings, and sandwiches, vol card accepted. Cool Beans hosts Rock Solid Sports every Monday night at 7. Trivia Tuesdays, Bingo Thursdays. More on Instagram at Knox Cool Beans or CoolBeansBar.com.
WTK stays on there thanks to CAC AmeriCorps. Operated by the Knox County Community Action Committee, or CAC, AmeriCorps brings people together to serve our community with over 40 government, academic, nonprofit, and community partners for a full year of full-time service. Partners include Beardsley Community Farm, Centro Hispano, Keep Knoxville Beautiful, and more. Members receive a living stipend, housing and healthcare benefits, flexible schedules, and an education award, creating pathways to impact-oriented careers. Applications are available at CAC AmeriCorps, that's corps.org.
Hey, Knoxville. This is WUTK alum and voice of the Tennessee Titans, Mike Keith. Now back to more of my favorite sports show, Rock Solid Sports, on 90.3 The Rock.
Welcome back in, everybody, to Rock Solid Sports. I'm Jackson Williams. That's Jack Foster next to me. We got Bryson Wright and Chris Clark across the glass. And at our sponsor, Fieldhouse Social at 2525 University Commons Way, we have our man Riley Haltom. Riley, what's going on?
You know how it is down here at Fieldhouse Social. We're having a good time. Great atmosphere, great food, and lots of great games going on around me. I just watched my boy Kike Hernandez on the Red Sox fly out to Marcelo Zuma. So lots of good games going on. Come down here and enjoy the atmosphere at Fieldhouse Social.
Definitely. And you know what else is going to be a great atmosphere tonight? FedEx Forum. Grizzlies facing elimination down 3-1. And they're not only down 3-1, they're down a John Morant. John Morant, diagnosed with a bone bruise, is doubtful for the rest of the postseason. And I mean, Bryson, do the Grizzlies have any hope?
The Grizzlies definitely have some hope. Obviously, it does look a little bleak right now. Obviously, you don't think that coming back from down 3-1 is not an easy task, especially against a team that is as good as the Warriors. But you also have to look at the fact that they've blown a 3-1 lead before. I mean, that team they blew the lead to did have LeBron James on it, so it's a little bit different. But, you know, nothing's impossible. But I do think that they have a good chance of winning tonight just because they're coming back home. They're facing elimination. I think you're going to get the best possible performance out of this Grizzlies team tonight, and I do think it probably is going to be enough. The real question is going to be when they go back to Golden State in Game 6, could they win that? But obviously, you got to win one game at a time. That's the only thing you can look at. I'm expecting them to play well tonight. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm excited for the game still. Always excited for the Grizzlies, especially playoff basketball, and going to continue to support this team regardless of what happens.
Well, I just want to say, first off, Kevin Garnett did teach us that anything is possible, though I think you guys are probably a little too young for that. But
I remember. Come on now.
Okay, now I'll give you credit. All right. So, no, but I think for the Grizzlies right now, yes, how are you going to respond after what happened last game? The Grizzlies controlled that game all the way up until the end. They had it looking like they were going to be able to pull it off another one of these special wins without Ja Morant, which it's incredible to watch Memphis play first and foremost without Ja. I don't know what it is, but maybe it's just me, but the ball movement just seems seems much more fluid, but that makes sense because Ja, he commands a lot of the attention with the ball, understandably. I think with these Grizzlies, this is what I was worried about going into the series with the Warriors. The Warriors, they have experience. When you have experience, that tends to pay off for you. And I think especially, Clay's been off a couple games. Curry's had a couple games where you look at these guys shooting and you're like, is there something going on? At least with Clay, he's coming back. But I think some of the other matchups, I don't know. This is what I was worried about for Memphis is now you've got an absolute uphill climb going up against a tough opponent in the Warriors, a team that's been relevant for years now. So this is not the situation Memphis wanted to find themselves in. Had they lost last game but still had Ja, I would have a lot more confidence right now. Maybe they can stick this game out, protect home court. I believe the Grizzlies can do it because they've done it numerous times this year without Ja on the court. So we'll just have to see what happens tonight. The Grizzlies, they've got their backs against the wall. We'll see how they fight.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I will say the thing that is tough for the Grizzlies too is that you can look at 3 or 4 plays that have happened through the series that changed the fact that the Warriors would be up 3-1, that maybe the Grizzlies could be up 3-1.
Sure.
If you just make a couple plays in each game. Now, obviously, game 3, the Warriors just absolutely blew the Grizzlies out. But in game 1, they gave up 3 offensive rebounds near the end of the game. Warriors ended up hitting a 3 that put them up 1, which was eventually the game winner. And then last night in game 4, you have a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter. Then you just don't make the plays down the stretch. Questionable shot making or shot attempts from Dylan Brooks as well, especially the last one. That was the one that I just didn't understand. The step back 3 with 50 seconds, you're still up 1.
Future Shanghai Shark, Dylan Brooks.
Okay, maybe I don't know about Shanghai Shark. That's a little bit too far, man.
Oh, you put that one in my head. You told me that. That is, but Dylan Brooks obviously is he killed the Grizzlies last game. I mean, you can't really put it any nicer than that. He cost the Grizzlies a tie series heading back into Memphis, and you lose Ja Morant. And I kind of want to shift the focus a little bit to Ja and just what did you think of the play between, I believe it was Bryce Poole?
No, Jordan Poole.
Jordan Poole.
Yeah. I don't think it was a dirty play, honestly. I don't think that's what hurt him. I think they banged knees before that actually happened because he ended up having a bone bruise, which unless Jordan Poole is like the Hulk, you're not going to bruise somebody's knee by doing what he did. Now, I do still think that he shouldn't have pulled on his knee the way he did, but I don't think that he was doing it on purpose. And I don't think that's actually what ended up hurting Ja.
Well, I think that's what get lost in the mix is people see the pull on the knee, then they see, okay, Ja has the knee injury. But you're right, though. The two kind of don't add up. You're not going to pull a knee and somebody has a knee bruise from it, unless you managed to punch it on your way into pulling it, which obviously we did not see from Jordan Poole. So no, I don't think it was a dirty play either. I think it was just, especially if you really slow it down and look at it, Ja has the ball right there near his leg and then shifts it right before Jordan starts to reach over. That's what I saw from it. I just saw a guy going for the ball. Now, why he grabbed the knee, I can't understand that, but I don't think it was dirty though.
The reason I kind of thought it was dirty for a little bit was I feel like it wasn't just the grab, it was the push. Grabbing his knee one way and pushing him the other. That doesn't look like going for the ball for me. That looks like pushing him one way and pulling his knee the other. A guy who has been hurt with knee soreness, whatever that. I'm sorry, NBA injury designations kill me. Knee soreness, like that could be anything in the NBA. So I mean, Ja's had issues with that knee throughout this season. And I don't know, it seemed a little ill will, especially, chirping back and forth. Obviously, it's an intense playoff series, but it seemed a little ill will.
Yeah, I'll give you that. And speaking of intense playoff series, I do think that tonight is going to be really intense on both ends. I think that the Warriors really want to close it out because they know if they can close it out tonight, they're going to get a bit of a break. But you're also going to get the best punch from the Memphis Grizzlies. I'm expecting big games from Jaren Jackson Jr. and Tyus Jones. I think those two guys are going to be really huge. Hopefully, Desmond Bane, he's been dealing with a back injury. We'll see if he looks a little bit more like himself. He hasn't really looked like himself the whole series when he was really the best player on the team against the Timberwolves. So we'll see what happens tonight, but I do expect a really highly contested game.
Yeah, I think especially for Golden State, going into Memphis, they know how hostile of an environment FedEx Forum can be and has been for quite a while now. They know that that's a tough place to play, and they don't really want to go back to California to go get ready for another game to play. They want to go ahead and end the series tonight, and then when they go back to California, they can rest because they know Dallas-Phoenix right now is a very good series, and that's maybe a series we might be able to get into, but that is a great series as well. And, Golden State doesn't want to play around. They want to go ahead and get their rest before that one would potentially start up should they go ahead and win this series.
And, yeah, definitely. I mean, if you're Golden State, you want to close this out because, I mean, Phoenix was the best team in the regular season. They were they dominated. They were incredible. And then you have Dallas, who is giving them everything they can handle. So who's ever coming out of that, whoever is coming out of that series, you're going to get an even tougher matchup. I mean, especially with Ja out, this is going to be a tougher matchup coming up in the next round if you're Golden State.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. Those two teams have taken each other to the limit in odd ways this series, but I think it'll go 7. So they're going to be winded. That's
why I don't even want to know who's going to come out of the series. I want to know what Dallas team is going to come out tonight.
Tomorrow night, yeah.
I'm sorry, tomorrow night. Yes, excuse me. Yeah, that's all I want to know because, like you said, it's been a weird series, but they were able to protect their home court. Role players stepped up big and did what they were supposed to do, and I don't know, for Phoenix looked a little shell-shocked by the end of Game 4, and then they go into Game 5. It's close for a while there, and then once again, just like Games 1 and 2, Phoenix just pulls it out in the end and starts to make it look like a beatdown.
Yeah, it's the Suns avalanche. It happens all the time. The Suns just have like an avalanche of scoring.
They just put 20
and it was like
real quick.
I think it was like they were down by 8 with like 8 minutes left in the second quarter. Mm-hmm. And then like near the end of the third quarter, they had a 20-point lead. Oh. And it's just like out of nowhere, it's just like they just flip a switch. And the defensive rotations are much better. I know we saw like Bismack Biyombo ended up getting a fight and stuff, but everybody on that team plays good defense. There's nobody on the Suns that you can attack defensively. And I think that's one of the big things for the Mavericks is finding out how are they going to score, especially score outside of Luka Doncic. Because Luka can have 45 every game, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the Mavericks are going to win if he has no help. No. And I think that's kind of what the Suns have been doing is, if Luka wants to have 30, that's fine. But as long as Jalen Brunson doesn't have 25 and Maxi Kleba and guys like that don't end up hitting, Dorian Finney-Smith don't hit 3 or 4 3-pointers as well on top of the stuff that Luka, you're going to get at least 25 from Luka every night.
And I think 25 and 10 every night.
No doubt. And they're okay giving that up. They're okay giving up 30 to 40 points if that means he's going to put up, in and around 25 shots, give or take, because that's what they want. They want to be able to look at the rest of the team and try to shut them down. They know Luka's going to get his numbers. So Phoenix is, if they want to be smart, that's the game they need to play so that way they can just go ahead and lock up this series. But, Dallas has made them work for it. Credit to the Mavs.
Yeah,
Jason Kidd especially.
Yeah, they were terrific at home. It was like they were a different team. I mean, you got guys like Finney-Smith and Reggie Bullock, Maxi Kleber, like Bryson mentioned, just coming up to play. And, last night I think Reggie Bullock had 0 points. So that just goes to show what type of game it was for Dallas. And, it's almost as if the Suns just impose their will when they want to sometimes because they can get guys hot from deep just as much as the Mavs can. And when you have DeAndre Ayton, that mismatch is probably going to be the difference in the series.
There's nobody on the Mavericks that can handle DeAndre.
No
and hasn't at home, on the road, it doesn't matter. And I think another problem with the Mavericks, you mentioned like Reggie Bullock, it is definitely like, I don't know what the stats behind it are, but it's definitely known that whenever you have a bunch of role players always play better at home compared to like superstar players. It travels. So like CP3, Booker, they're going to play good wherever they go. Luka is going to play good wherever they go. But when you get down to like Reggie Bullock and guys like that, you don't really know what you're going to get. So I think that's why part of, first they got to try to force a game 7.
Yes,
that's the first thing.
Step one.
But I think the problem is, even if you do force the game 7, you have to go back to Phoenix. And that is such a tough place to play. The only team they really lost to at home last year was actually the Bucks. And they only lost one home game to the Bucks. And it took an incredible performance from the best player in the world. So,
yeah. And, I was afraid the Mavs-Jazz series would turn into the Mavs-Clippers of last year. Thankfully it didn't. But this series feels a little bit like Mavs-Clippers from last year, where Dallas just does really well at home. They're the lower seed. They're the underdog. So then they have to go on the road for game 7, and the Suns are just going to win. I have Suns in 7 right now.
I'm going to say Suns in 6. I think they go ahead and close it out tomorrow. And no disrespect to Dallas. I mean, obviously, I grew up with them as my rival, so I would prefer Phoenix to go ahead and win the series. But nevertheless, I think Phoenix takes care of the business tomorrow. I think they know what's on the road right now, especially if Golden State closes out tonight. Yeah, I don't think Phoenix messes around tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that they're so good, and they're just such a much better team that they can if they want to. It's just
that's the thing. That's what needs to separate the Phoenix team from last year and avert to this team. Is that last year you didn't finish. This year, this is what they need to do, is finish if they want to bring home that Larry O'Brien trophy.
Exactly. I mean, Chris Paul waited so long for his first finals appearance. He's not messing around this time. He's trying to get back there. I got the Suns at 6.
Yeah, Monty's hungry. Everybody's going to be hungry on that Suns roster to get a championship this year. But I still say Suns at 7 because I have faith the Mavs can take one at home.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's either going to be the Suns in 6 or the Suns in 7. I think that there's a good chance that the Mavericks will win game 6 because they're coming back home. But I think, like I said, it's so tough to beat Phoenix in Phoenix. It's impossible. Not impossible, but like it's very tough. I'll just leave it at that. I think the Suns got it just because they have home court advantage.
As you said, last year it took an MVP performance from the future Finals MVP in order to get that dub in Phoenix last year. So that's a testament to how good Phoenix plays at home.
Definitely. Let's look at an Eastern Conference series. Right now, going on right now, is the Bucks-Celtics. Series is tied 2-2. Bucks are currently up 28-26. And Grant Williams on Giannis Antetokounmpo has been must-see TV at times during this. I mean, Grant Williams has, played really solid defense against, as Bryson said, the best player in the world. And what do you got? I mean, how much of this series have you guys watched? What do you guys think of this series?
So I've watched a good amount of this series. I think whoever wins this series is going to end up coming out of the Eastern Conference and represent them in the finals. I think that both of these teams are better than Miami or Philadelphia. Now, I do also think Miami would be the third team in there. So I think Miami could also get there, but I think it's probably going to be the winner of this series. And the last game, it was Grant Williams played pretty well, but the guy that really showed up was Al Horford, which was really surprising. Giannis dunked on him.
Big man Al.
Yeah. Giannis dunked on him earlier in the game, and he started talking trash, and you saw Al Horford kind of looked at him. He was like, okay, all right. And then Al Horford went for 30, and it was just insane.
16 in the fourth, right, or something?
Yeah,
crazy?
16 in the fourth.
I thought it was 18 in the fourth.
It might have been 18. I think it was 16 at one point. The broadcast pointed out, but it could have been 18.
And then, I mean, he's 35 years old. He set the record for most playoff games played before a 30-point performance. He is in the triple digits. I want to say it's 132, and
Wow.
nobody else is in the triple digits. No, so like he beat it by like 30 plus games before the next person,
Dang.
like the next oldest person to put, or the next games before a 30-point playoff performance.
Well, I was watching that game, and Bryson, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't like a couple of years ago when Kyrie was still on the Celtics, but was hurt in that playoff since the Boston made kind of a deep run, and Al Horford was on Boston then and was really good.
Yeah, no, he played really good in that series as well.
Yeah.
That was kind of when Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown were first kind of coming into their own. And I really think they probably could have gone to the finals that year. I mean, they wouldn't have won the finals because that was when Golden State had KD. So I don't think they would have won the finals. And they ran into LeBron James, which that a lot of guys can write that down as the reason why they didn't make it to the finals. But I think that experience was actually really good for them. And I think that's why they're in a good position now. I do think that this game is going to be the deciding game. They always say in a 2-2 series, whoever wins game 5 usually wins the series. I think it's like 82% of the time. I know that's what it was when the Grizzlies won game 5 against the Timberwolves because I used that stat a couple times. So it's a little bit over 80% of the time. If you win game 5 in a 2-2 series, you win the series. So I think this is honestly probably the most important game besides a possible game 7. Which my original pick going into the series was the Celtics in 7. I'm going to stick with that. I think that having game 7 at home is going to be important for them just because the TD Garden is such a crazy place to play.
No, it's an absolutely crazy place to play. And I think for sure this series is going 7. I don't see it any other way. The Bucks and the Celtics, they've been back and forth. I don't see that being any different over this game and next. I don't know. Going into game 7, I almost have to flip a coin because I'm with you that I think Milwaukee is probably, to me, still overall the best team in the Eastern Conference. I would probably put Miami over Boston, but just by a hair. And even then, Miami they make me think sometimes. So I don't know. Milwaukee right now, I think if they can steal this game tonight, which right now it's pretty much a 1-point deficit for them in the second quarter. So it's another very tight, close game. Milwaukee pulls this off. They're in great position, obviously. But, man, I think this is going 7. I can't guarantee anything.
And see, I think that if Chris Middleton was still playing, I think I would have gone with the Bucks as well. But I think just not having that closer. Well, Giannis is also a great closer as well. But that guy that can score more from the outside as well and not just in the paint is so important. I mean, you saw it last year in the playoffs. He had 30, 40-point games a lot of the times. Obviously, Giannis is still the best player on that team. But Chris Middleton hit clutch shots at the most important times in all of those games going to the finals. He was the guy they went to if they needed a game winner, kind of stuff like that. So I think that's the thing that is going to hurt them. I'm hearing that he might be able to come back. If he comes back, I do think the Bucks would win if he can somehow come back. But I mean, there's still only 3 games left. Well, 2 games after tonight. So it's getting kind of late for him to come back. So there's not really sure if he's going to be able to.
Yeah, I got the Celtics in 7. I really think without Chris Middleton, I think they're a more well-rounded team than the Bucks right now. Just deeper. They have multiple superstar-ish players, if that makes sense. And so I think the Celtics are going to win in 7. They are also, at the beginning of the playoffs, they are my dark horse title team. So I think ultimately I think they could win the finals.
A dark horse 2 seed. Dark horse right there.
But nobody's picking the East. I mean, everybody kind of had the Suns. I heard
or Warriors pretty
Yeah,
much.
Yeah.
Golden State.
The West was picked primarily to win. I think
true.
ultimately the Celtics were not a title favorite pick is what I was going with there. But I got the Celtics winning the finals this year.
I don't know. Out of the top 4 in the East, it's hard to say any of them would be a dark horse. Like even Phillies, they've been back and forth, but my goodness, they are a team that has pieces to win a championship. They just another series that is going on obviously right now, and it's been a wacky series, much like Phoenix and Dallas right now. I think very comparable to that.
Yeah, very, very. So and then the Sixers and Mavs both got blown out last night. So game 5 went about the same way. But I got Celtics in 7 as well.
Definitely.
I'm right there with you. Yeah,
NBA
Celtics
playoffs.
in
We're going to
7.
take a quick break. We come back. Tom Brady signed the richest deal in broadcasting history. We'll be back talking a little bit more about that on Rock Solid Sports.
Support for WUTK comes from Fieldhouse Social, the modern sports bar next to campus at University Commons. Fieldhouse Social serves American craft fare such as burgers, wings, and more with high tops around the bar, a separate dining area, and a center lounge with leather chairs and couches in front of their 23-foot LED TV wall for Tennessee and pro sports. Fieldhouse Social is an outdoor patio with trivia twice a week and sponsors Wednesday's Rock Solid Sports. FieldhouseSocial.com.
Volunteer Radio remains on the air thanks to listener donations and support from the UT Athletic Department. After making it to Omaha last season, the 2022 baseball fall season begins in February and runs into May, featuring games with SEC rivals South Carolina, Alabama, Georgia, and more at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. Season, group, and individual game ticket info is at allvols.com. Students need to show their valid UT ID at the gate for entrance. Tune into Rock Solid Sports for UT baseball coverage, and The Rock wishes Coach Vitello and the Baseballs good luck on the diamond this season.
I'm WUTK alum John Wilkerson from the Vol Network and Sports Talk on the Sports Animal, and you're tuned to Volunteer Radio, 90.3 The Rock, UT's College of Rock, the original home for the Sports Update. Go Vols!
Volunteer Radio stays on air thanks to Cool Beans, the 21-up college sports bar next to campus on Lake Avenue, a block off the strip. Cool Beans has 25 rotating beer taps and bottles. HD TVs everywhere, along with darts, pool, and arcade games. Open every day at 11 a.m. to late night. Burgers, wings, and sandwiches, Vol card accepted. Cool Beans hosts Rock Solid Sports every Monday night at 7. Trivia Tuesdays, Bingo Thursdays. More on Instagram at Knox Cool Beans or CoolBeansBar.com.
Volunteer Radio receives support from Stefano's Pizza on the Cumberland Avenue Strip and locations in Hardin Valley and Turkey Creek. Open 7 days a week, Stefano's on the Strip offers daily menu features, pizza by the slice, and the all-you-can-eat buffet lunch Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Gluten-free crust available. Delivery available for campus, the fort, and other areas. Stefano'sPizzaKnoxville.com and all the separate locations' Facebook pages.
The Rock thanks the Hill Bar and Grill for their support. The Hill on Forest Avenue is open 7 days a week at 11 a.m. until late night for dining indoors or on the expanded patio. The Hill has a variety of appetizers and a full menu of wings, burgers, tacos, and more. The Hill is our Thursday Munchie Madness sponsor and home of Friday's Rock Solid Sports. On Instagram at The Hill Knox. Menu at thehillknox.com.
Volunteer Radio remains on the air thanks to support from Tennessee Smokies Baseball, the AA Southern League affiliate of the Chicago Cubs, whose 2022 regular season schedule features 6-game homestands Tuesdays through Sundays at nearby Smoky Stadium in Kodak against the Chattanooga Lookouts, Mississippi Braves, Birmingham Barons, and more. WUTK's Rock Solid Sports will cover Smokies Baseball all season long. SmokiesBaseball.com, and a link is at WUTKRadio.com.
This is Mike Keith. Hope you're enjoying tonight's edition of Rock Solid Sports. Now let's turn it back over to the crew as you listen to 90.3 The Rock, rockin' ears for 40 years.
Welcome back in, everybody, to Rock Solid Sports. I'm Jackson Williams. Got Jack Foster next to me. We got Bryson Wright and Chris Clark across the glass. And at our sponsor, Fieldhouse Social, 2525 University Commons Way. We got our man, Riley Halton. Riley, what's going on, man?
We're having a good time down here at Fieldhouse Social. One of the waiters just walked past me with some food, and it smelled really good. So got my stomach rumbling a little bit. So, yeah, we got all kinds of great games going on. In Atlanta, the Braves are down 2 to the Red Sox. It's a tight game there. It's been very back and forth. So, yeah, man, just come down here, get you some good food, enjoy the atmosphere, and watch the games.
Definitely. And it's going to be a fun weekend in Nashville. You know why? Nico is coming to town. Nico will be competing in the Elite 11 event in Nashville, run by former NFL quarterback Trent Dilfer at Lipscomb Academy, where Dilfer coaches. And, you know, it's going to be awesome to see Nico compete in the state he's going to play college football in.
No, yeah, it's really cool. And, he'll get to compete for fans of Tennessee sports. He'll go toe-to-toe against some of the best 2022 recruits, 2023 recruits, quarterbacks, of course. Go to showcase his talents for some experts and learn something along the way.
Definitely going to be fun this weekend in Nashville to see Nico. And it's obviously interesting to talk about quarterbacks because yesterday, big news about the GOAT, the best quarterback to ever play football, came out that after he retires, he signs a 10-year, $375 million with Fox to essentially replace Troy Aikman.
Yeah, and call games with he's the color with Kevin Burkhardt, who will be play-by-play. It's a big deal.
Like this is game changing.
That's a lot of money.
What do you think?
That's insane.
The Athletic put out top 5 sports analysts right now, and you know who is number 2 after Tom Brady? Jim Rome.
Really?
You guys know who that
Rome.
is? You guys know the guy who you guys have probably seen the video where a Chris Everett Jim Everett, who Jim Rome kept calling Chris, flips a table and went after him. That's the last time that's the only thing I've ever seen at a Jim Rome. He makes $30 million a year.
Holy.
I'm not surprised. Jim Rome's been around since like the early 2000s, bro.
It feels like we would see more out of him for $30 million a year, like more social media presence.
Now, is that just like is that combined, like everybody that's ESPN, that's Fox, it's CBS, it's all that?
Yes. Stephen A only makes, I believe, 9 mil.
Which I think Stephen A needs to get paid a little bit more because ESPN has him on every single show, it feels like.
He literally is, man, from morning to night.
If Jim Rome's getting 30, Stephen A has to be making more than 10. That's 3 times. And Stephen A probably does 3 times the work. It's wild once you get into these salaries. But what do you guys think about Tom Brady? Number one, being the highest paid broadcaster and never ever doing broadcasting really. And how do you guys think he's going to do ultimately?
I mean, I think he's going to do great. The one thing that you know about Tom Brady is he knows the game of football, right? And I think it's going to be cool to see kind of his thought process through the game. And I mean, you see the way that, as well as Tony Romo has done since he's been on there. And I think that Tom Brady can be just as good, if not better, than Tony Romo. And I also do like the way he's kind of improved his social media presence as well over the past couple months. And I think that's going to be really big for him too. And I think it's going to be really cool to see him interact on social media because that's such an important part of being a journalist in today's world. And yeah, I do think it's really interesting that he's going to make more as a broadcaster than he ever made in his entire NFL career, which is really wild to think about. And I mean, dude is making max contract money and he's not even playing anymore. So it's going to be interesting to see what he does, but I'm excited. I think he's going to do a really good job.
So I don't know. First and foremost, to get to Tony Romo's level, it's going to take a little bit of work. Tony's, he's established himself in the broadcast game. But I think, honestly, I don't know how to digest this, to be honest, because, I think it's a weird precedent for the networks to set that. Yes, I mean, Tom Brady's undisputably the GOAT of football. Like he's the best. But to throw such money at someone who's still walking on the football field as of right now, who's still training and practicing and things like that. I don't know. It's a little odd. Don't get me wrong. By no means do I hate it. I'm happy for Tom Brady. I'm just very curious what kind of broadcaster he's going to be, because I think, as you're kind of on the track about, I think he has that potential to be like a Tony Romo, a guy that, understands the game, can dissect it almost better than anybody, probably better than anybody else could. So I think that's what he has working for him. How comfortable is he going to be in the booth? That's what it always comes down to, because Tom Brady's not always had the best media presence. He is working on his social media. He's become a lot more lighthearted, a lot more fun. And I think that's big for him going into the broadcast game. But I'm just curious to see how this is going to work out, because again, he's not always been the best, most exciting media guy. So, but I think he can come into it and he can get rolling with it. So I have faith in him.
I think it's interesting that he chose to go the more traditional route rather than, we've seen Peyton Manning do the Manning cast and stuff like that. I think it's very interesting that he went the very traditional route where he's going to be the Fox guy.
Like you expected more, like to get into something bigger than broadcasting.
I honestly thought Peyton Manning may have started something that a lot of other people were going to try to follow.
Well,
they are.
Joe Buck is doing it with the PGA Championship.
Yeah, and ESPN is obviously going to, just milk that until they can't anymore, because they saw how much it worked, how viral it went on social media. They're going to keep using that. I'm just surprised Tom Brady didn't see that as an option. I want to know what negotiations were like. I want to know what Tom Brady's initial asking price was before they negotiated to $375 million.
Who knows?
I don't even want to know, to be honest.
Yeah.
Definitely interesting.
The real question is when does he start calling games?
2025. Wow. I'm going to say he has 2 more years.
Really?
After this year, 2 more years.
You think he's going to play for 2 more years?
No, Jackson's saying 3.
He's saying 3 more seasons.
Yeah, 3 seasons.
I think this might be his last year.
I think it is.
If you're gonna sign that contract, there's no way they're giving him $375 million and then they're gonna wait for 3 years. Right?
I don't know. I think they would wait for him, to be honest.
Yeah, the contract doesn't start until he retires.
I mean,
so they're not
yeah,
paying
but-
him. Like it's nothing
not
out of their
wasted money
wallets.
or anything.
I still think it's only going to be a year, though. If he's there 3 more seasons, then good for him. But I just don't see that
because
happening.
he's already what 44.
Here's my conspiracy.
He'll literally almost be a 50-year-old out there,
Here-
almost a
here's-
senior citizen playing.
Here's the conspiracy. I think he leaves Tampa after this season. This will be his last season with Tampa,
Oh, here we go.
and he goes to Miami.
If that was going to happen, that'd happen this year.
No, because he had 1 year left with Tampa. So
I know, but that was already in the works, and Dolphins brought in a new coach that they didn't,
It'll be.
I just don't think it's happening.
I like throwing the hypotheticals out there. I think. It'll be fun.
Then he's going to the Titans. How about that?
We already did that. We already went down that road.
And
That's
he's already
that was
comfortable
3
in
years
Florida.
ago.
He's not moving.
That's
to
a
Tennessee.
That's a hysterical rant for another day. And speaking of the Titans, thank you, Jack. Titans start mini camp on Friday. Rookies report, and I think it's pretty obvious who I'm most excited to see. I want to see Malik Willis. I think this is going to be. Treylon's interesting. Malik's, I don't know.
He's wide receiver 1. What do you mean?
He is.
You
but
even spoke it into existence, Jackson.
I did in a way that I did not know the repercussions of my actions.
For, right?
It was really an example of be careful what you wish for. I'm excited to see Treylon, but ultimately I think Malik Willis will be able to, in these drills, do more, if that makes sense. Like, it's obviously it's all non-contact stuff. I think you'll be able to see more of Malik Willis doing things that translate to where he is in his development, rather than Treylon, who's just kind of catching balls on routes on air.
Yeah, I mean, I think I might be more excited to see Treylon Burks just a little bit. Obviously, it's going to be cool to see Malik Willis out there, but Treylon Burks is going to be a week 1 starter. And I think that's going to be more important to the team this year compared to Malik Willis. Now, we'll see if maybe later in the season Malik Willis will play. You never know what can happen in an NFL season. There's a ton of different stuff that could happen could push him into the starting role. But we know that Treylon Burks is going to be starting from week 1. And I think that's the thing that I'm most excited to see how he looks. Obviously, it's going to be mostly routes on there, but just to see how he moves. And then we'll see going forward once they put the pads on, that's when we'll really start to see more from him.
I think initially off the back, it's going to be more attention towards Malik Willis. And I think, of course, as time progresses and we get to the understanding that, yes, Treylon is going to start week 1. Malik is, who knows? So I think for Treylon, like, he doesn't have all eyes on him right now like he probably should. Now, I don't know how he feels about that. He probably doesn't care. But I think Treylon's going to start commanding more attention, especially as time goes on here. So I think most of the excitement is focused on Malik, but probably should be on Treylon.
I think Treylon's probably feel a little bit of relief after Ryan Tannehill put his foot in his mouth, because you got to think, I mean, he did not come into the best situation on draft night. I mean, A.J. Brown's traded. The fans are upset. Everybody's not happy. And you get drafted like 20 seconds later. So I think Treylon Burks is probably ecstatic that the focus shifted to Malik Willis rather quickly. And I got a quick question for y'all. Have y'all heard of the Fan Controlled Football League?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Zappers. Love them.
T.O. got traded.
Oh, no.
T.O. just got traded from the Zappers.
No.
Terrell Owens, 48-year-old man who has been playing in the Fan Controlled Football League with Johnny Manziel as his quarterback.
And Bob Menery is the owner, man.
I love that.
It's been incredible television. It's been it's streaming on Twitch, but it's been awesome to watch T.O. go out there and catch touchdowns for this random football league.
Well, he was trying to come back and play with one of the teams. I'm sorry, I don't remember who it was recently, but said, "Hey, just sign me on to the team."
Was it like Baltimore or something? I can't.
Yes,
really
I want to say
it might have been the
that's
Ravens.
where all the washed up receivers go. So Des Bryant, Sammy Watkins. I mean,
go down the
so he was traded to the Knights of Degen. If you these teams have crazy names.
I would say Deegan.
Deegan,
that's me.
The Knights of Deegan.
Yeah.
Okay, the Knights of Deegan, and that's what we're going to go with. And he was traded in a 3-team trade, traded a bunch of quarterbacks, receivers. I mean, just Terrell Owens playing football at 48 and gets traded. What? I don't. This league is wild.
Hey, that's why it's fun.
It's fun. It's definitely interesting.
It's the purpose.
It's the only football that you can see Johnny Manziel and Terrell Owens play in 2022.
If you want to, of course.
Hey, Johnny football is electric. He had like a 60-yard touchdown in that league last year. A run. It's definitely interesting. I thought,
I did not think we'd be talking about the FCF tonight.
I saw it and I had to bring it up because Terrell Owens, He's interesting.
T.O.'s the bomb. Yeah.
He went down the road to UT Chattanooga, and I think that is what we are going to end the show on. I'm Jackson. That's Jack. We had Bryson and Chris across the glass. We had Riley and our sponsor, Fieldhouse Social, and we'll catch you guys on Friday.